Welcome back to the Builders Coach Show. I'm Jess, I'm your host. I'm here with Kurt from Builders Coach. Kurt, welcome to this episode.
Thank you, Jess. Good to be back in the studio.
Yes, really good to be back. Look, special shout out today. This episode is brought to you by Golden Digital. If you want to grow your business online, book a growth session with Ellie from Golden Digital. Together, you'll explore the digital strategy that can help you hit your goals and uncover what's working and what might be holding you back. So we'll put all the details in the show notes and get onto it.
Absolutely.
But let's get into our session for today. So really want to talk about what's happening currently in the market because there's been a lot going on. And you were on the Sunrise over the weekend a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I got a call from Channel 7. Just wanted to know what my take is on the fuel price hikes, which are impacting us pretty hard over here in Australasia. Yeah.
So just unpack a little bit what's happening in Australia. And I know it's not just Australia. There's some issues, all over. And you're talking to a lot of builders. So
yeah, interesting times, right, to say the least. We again heavily impacted here in Australia for obvious reasons. For those that don't know, and our colleagues over in the US and Canada, we import 90% of our fuel in Australia, which is it's absurd, really, because one of the most resource-rich countries in the world, and we won't go into the details, but they made decisions to dismantle the oil refineries and to import oil mostly from Asia, and the situation that's happening in the Middle East is impacting us heavily. They also don't have big fuel reserves, so only 30 days, which is quite alarming as well. So it's put us in a pretty bad situation. Apparently they'll get on top of it, but there's a lot of uncertainty, and FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt in the market, which is understandable. But again, builders are left having to deal with these price hikes. Prices moving like quicksand. They're locked in on fixed price contracts, and it's not only builders but their clients as well. It's absurd. Building demand's up. In Australia, it's at a generational high in terms of demand, but so are insolvencies. And, that is also the case for Canada. New Zealand's in the same boat. The US insolvencies are up as well for builders. Not as bad as down here, but it is, it's masked because they've got a real growing economy. They're going to grow at about 4.5% in the next 12 months. So there's a lot of money flowing in the US, which is good for them. But builders are still doing it tough. Yeah, so that's been sort of the focus of a lot of the conversations we've been having, yeah.
Yeah, so you mentioned a lot of insolvencies, and we spoke about this before. Although the demand is so high, what is so different about Australia?
It's the fuel thing. It's the fact that we import most of our fuel. We're not self-sufficient. We don't have the oil refineries. We're not. It was the move towards a greener economy, which is a good thing. But really, we should be burning some coal to accelerate our progress towards the green economy. Now, it's important to note that although things are uncertain and there's a lot of fear and uncertainty out there, that with chaos comes opportunity. So there is a lot of opportunity, and the guys that we're working with, that we're talking to, who understand their numbers, understand their market, they've got a good niche, they are going to be in a very good position because demand's still up. It's going to stay up. Like in Australia, we've got a housing crisis, as does New Zealand and the US as well. Like, they have a shortfall of houses, so demand's strong. The reason guys are going under is it's price inaccuracy combined with price shock, and this is what I shared on Channel 7. So most builders, sadly, and for whatever reason, it's worse here in Australia, they don't understand their numbers. So they're going in at a very low margin. And we won't get into, markup versus margin, but a lot of them are, marking up 15%, not costing in their time correctly for supervision, project management, and the labor, which, in their defense is not an easy thing to do, to get it right, because you've got to do, the hourly rate, weekly allocation, and keep timesheets and all that sort of thing. And there's different ways to do it. There's no sort of one size fits all. So it can get quite complex. And their solution, when they're doing a lot of work, but not making any money, is to then take on more work. So they're chasing cash flow. And as you do more work, as you know, you get, more inefficiencies, you get busier, cracks start to emerge, and then, there's a percentage going off a cliff. But I mean, the numbers here in Australia, 3,500 insolvencies last year. That's before the fuel crisis, right? To give people an idea, it's normally 1,000 to 1,400 a year. So it's way, way up. It's unprecedented. Like it's pretty bad. So the pool of builders is shrinking, especially the pool of quality builders and trades as well, your subcontractors. So that's going to drive demand up even further. Plus in Australia, we're 200,000 homes behind where we should be. And we've got, relative to the US, our population's small. We're like less than 1/10 of the US population. Come 2030, we're going to be nearly 500,000 homes behind. If we stay on this trajectory, the red tape doesn't help. Like this thing's multifaceted.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's there's so many moving parts, so many variables. But for myself, Jess, and a lot of our clients, sorry, I'll wrap this up soon. It's a case of just switching off the noise. I had a client say to me the other day, and it was a guy's wife. She said, dwelling on the negative and what could potentially go wrong, dwelling on that has no utility. It's not going to help, right?
Yeah. And you speak about, the biggest shakedown in the industry, and really this idea that some builders out there, unfortunately, are going to go under, but some others are actually going to come out of this stronger and taking a lot of that demand, right? So there's really, it's going to be bad for some people. For other people, there's really an opportunity there. And I think that's what we want to focus on. And that comes also from mindset, but from knowing your numbers, etc.
Absolutely, yeah. Like we want to bring some positivity into the conversation, and that's so important, right? Like unplugging from mainstream media. I mean, it's funny because I was this time last week I was sitting in a studio with mainstream media, giving my views on what's happening. But it's so important to unplug from that noise because they do sensationalize. They kicked off my segment with Canberra, and that's where our parliament is in Canberra, right? The capital of Australia. Canberra loaded the gun in the Middle East, pulled the trigger. And then they went straight in, and then it was a lot of doom and gloom, and, building expert predicts collapse of the building industry. And of course they do that because if it bleeds, it leads, and they're going for clicks and understand that's their model, and they want eyeballs, right? For obvious reasons. But yes, the good news is if you've got a handle on your numbers, it's going to be great. But just to emphasize the point of the need to unplug from the noise and the media and just the negativity that's out there. And it's not only the mainstream media, it is online. If there's podcasters and everything else that are pushing that negative narrative just to get people to look. I had a young guy come on a call, and he tried to call me the day before. It was this week. And I jumped on a Zoom call with him, and he was stressed out. He told me he had like a mini breakdown the day before, which is why he tried to call me. I got his missed call late, so I couldn't get back to him before we had our Zoom call. And he said, he started crying. Like he sort of broke down, not in front of his team, but he did have enough fear and anxiety that his team noticed it. And I said to him, why? And he said, he just doesn't know what's going to happen. Like, am I going to lose everything? Is it, And I said to him, hey man, you've just entered the 7-figure club. Like he's just netted, he's young, he's in his 30s. He's netted 1.3 million. He's just had a kid, his first son. He's got a healthy family. He's got some daughters, but his life's amazing. I told him, and I said, hey, you're going to be fine. Like he's one of the dominant forces in his area. The future's looking bright. The demand's only going to go up. His numbers are in the right place. He's going to be able to increase margin and, reduce revenue. So, and then he looked at me and he said, so everything I've been feeling for the last day or so, it's just me. It's just in my head. I was like, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's the danger of, where focus goes, energy flows, just focusing on the negative. And I've caught myself, in that space as well, because, if this thing gets worse, and it might, then, things are going to get pretty hairy, and it's not going to be a world we want to live in. And that's just the reality, but dwelling on it is not going to help. It has no utility. So it does become a case of focus on what you can control And even if, and a lot of our listeners have a bit of ADHD, which means you can hyper focus. You can hyper focus on the negative, right? And that can really impact your emotions, and your emotions then impact your results, behavior, and everything else. You've got to just stay too busy to worry or care.
Yeah. And I think it's really important to have a reality-based perspective. I mean, some people worry, and when they look at, the truth, the reality, you find out that, okay, no, everything's fine. It's okay. Some other people worry because they know that something somewhere, it's they're not quite sure what's happening, or they've got uncertainty in terms of their numbers, or sometimes it's like, oh, something doesn't feel right. And so I think it's good to investigate that and to know, okay, what is the reality of the situation for themselves.
Exactly. And you need a strategy. Like I'm not saying don't look at worst case scenarios. Like don't, you need life insurance, right? You need insurance, for your vehicle, your house, whatever. So you need to look at that, but don't dwell on it. And, in terms of having like a long-term perspective and making sure you do look at what could go wrong. I mean, our government's done a pretty bad job of that. The fact that we've got 30 days fuel reserves is just like, it's frightening. And I heard that, again, not to beat the government up, but this is just dumbass decision-making, right? They signed a treaty with other countries, I forget what it's called now, that they would have at least 12 weeks fuel reserves. And since 2012, Australia hasn't had 12 weeks. We've had 30 days, around 30 days. So they didn't think, hey, what happens if, there's an issue with, in the Middle East, or if China decides they're all going to swoop in and, take Taiwan. The situation now would be 10 times worse. And apparently that scenario is a matter of, it's not if, it's when. So, from my perspective, so what can we do? If we just got to focus on what we can control, as a minimalist, essentialist, sort of libertarian sort of mindset, it's about, decentralization. Like when you need to ideally, and we've spoken about this, have some acreage somewhere where you're self-sufficient, which, our country should be self-sufficient. But as a fallback position, it wouldn't hurt to have some acreage that you Airbnb as ecotourism, with some fruit trees and a veggie garden, maybe a few chickens and a quad bike. And, if everything, if worst case scenario doesn't hit, great. But if it does, you've got somewhere to go. And and you can actually have fun with it, so you're hedging your bets. If everything's great, which it should be, I'm an optimist, as most business owners are, but if it doesn't, you got off the grid solar power, and your vehicle's charged by the sun, and you've got water, and you're going to be okay. Yeah.
Let's get back into the mindset piece of this, because I really think it's important in this, current situation that we're in, mindset and how it impacts leadership also.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, it's sort of the foundation of leadership, right? Because the hallmark of leadership's decision making, which happens in your, with your brain and your mindset. So, and there's obviously a lot of layers to it. But I've been doing a bit of research. We've been having some conversations around mindset and looking at peak performers in business and sport and life in general, and how do they think? What's the mindset that they adopt every day, and then in situations like this where it gets a bit uncertain?
I think one of the research that we spoke about was that they've had two groups of people who actually think of stress as being something negative are actually negatively impacted by stress, whereas people that think of stress as something positive, like, oh, it's pushing me to do things and it's excitement and it's getting me to, to get to my deadlines, etc., actually don't experience that negative impact. And when I say negative impact, it's really a physical impact of stress, right? And I think was it 20 years?
So this is unbelievable, right? This is absolutely incredible, this story. I think it's almost, it's borderline woo-woo, okay? And it ties in with, like once you start unpacking this whole mindset thing, it doesn't take long, and then you're going, well, what about your reticular activating system, the law of attraction, quantum physics, which I don't really understand, but I know it freaked scientists out because they were looking at some sort of molecule or part of an atom or whatever it is, and when they looked at it, it changed. And it's only when a person looks at it that it changes its form. Okay, so that's a bit weird. We don't understand that. Well, I don't anyway, at a deep level. But it's interesting nonetheless. But yeah, what I discovered through this study was, and this freaked this doctor out. So she was a doctor that dealt with people who experience stress, and then stress, is related to cardiovascular disease, which is still, the number one killer in the Western world. And in a past life, I worked, in my early 20s with a pharmaceutical company that sold products in that category. So I'm quite familiar with it, right? But what she found, and this is unbelievable, this is fascinating, right? Listen to this. So what they learned was that people who see stress as a good thing, as in like an athlete that puts their body under stress when they exercise, cardio, or weight training, and then rest. So recovery is crucial. Anyone that's done, any sort of training or competed at even a semi-high level, you understand that recovery is probably one of the most important things, right, for athletes. If they don't recover, they're screwed. But if you do that, if you see stress like that, and when I say stress, like say mental and emotional stress, where you're doing deep work, you maybe put yourself in a sort of pressure cooker situation, and it's doing things that are just beyond your capability, not like off the chart stress, but stressful enough. And then you recover, and then you stress and recover, just like you do with your body. If you see that as a good thing, you get stronger. So what she found is the people that saw stress like that and dealt with it with the recovery component, which is so important, lived 20 years longer on average than people that saw stress as something that was going to cause them physiological harm. So you've got a 20-year, this stopped her in her tracks in her career. She was like, oh my God. So when she looked at it, she was like, you've got two groups of people. One of them is just choosing, and that's the key word, choosing to see stress as a good thing versus people choosing to see it as a negative thing, impacted how long they lived.
Yeah, not unbelievable.
That's bizarre. But
and also really good news, by the way, for a lot of people out there.
Yeah, exactly. So the reality is like the question is, how are you choosing to see if you are experiencing stress now? Because it's interesting. A lot of people I'm speaking to, it's like business as usual. If I don't bring up, hey, what's happening in your area, what's your view on what's happening with the fuel price hikes? They don't, most of us just talking about, hey, with this situation here, I've just brought on a new team member. I'm trying to onboard them. Let's talk KPIs, whatever it is. They're not worried about the macroeconomic situation, again, because they can't control it. But yeah, well, how are you choosing to view the stress that you're under, whatever it is? Because there's people that I'm working with, that we're working with, that are, under financial pressure, relationship pressure, health pressure. And yeah.
Talking of mindset, I've got a similar research also that I spoke to you about, but it was related to sports and exercise. And I can't tell you the whole details, but high level, the research said they took two groups of ladies, so cleaners in hotels. And so they analyzed the way that they were thinking about exercising. And so one group, so they first they measured their level of activity before they started the research, etc. But one group, they told them that they actually did a lot of exercise while they were cleaning the hotel rooms, while they were vacuuming, etc.
And they do, right? Like the work they do is quite vigorous, yeah.
Yeah. So one group, they told them, hey, you actually do a lot of physical exercise by cleaning, etc. And they were like, oh, okay, yeah, that's true. And the other group, and just to know that initially they didn't do any exercise outside.
So they weren't going to the gym or whatever.
So they were not doing any exercise. And then the second group, they didn't tell them anything. And then when they asked them at the beginning, do you do exercise? They were like, no, I don't exercise. Okay, so these people thought they were not exercising. But one group, they told them, no, actually you are exercising, as part of your work. And the other group, they didn't tell them anything. And then they, a few months later, they caught up with them again, and it's all a research based. But afterwards, after a few months, they realized that the one that actually thought they were doing exercise by just doing the normal work actually lost a little bit of weight. And so, yes, so just the it's basically your mindset thinking that you were actually doing exercise and realizing that you are doing exercise by doing your normal job, actually impacted the way your body feels it, etc.
It's fascinating. I find that really fascinating. We've all heard stories about people that have cancer, and then there's a placebo effect, right? That's a real thing in medicine where tumors disappear, or people are able to use their minds to impact the physiology. We don't fully understand it, but I mean, I think would be arrogant to think that we understand everything. I mean, 500 years ago, whatever, people were certain that the world was flat, right? They were certain that certain things were real. And then when someone went like, "Hold on a sec, I'm not so sure about that," they want to throw him off a cliff or whatever. But there's things that we obviously believe now that probably aren't true, or things that there's a lot that we don't know. We don't know.
Yeah.
A lot. So there's definitely something to it. But that's like hard evidence there with that doctor's practice where she saw.
I think when you think about it, and I think it's really positive and an opportunity is that your mindset can really impact the way you actually experience things. Basically.
Yeah, but there is like a science to it. Like they have broken it down, right? Because there's a great book that I just listened to called Peak Performance. We can put it in the show notes. I forget the authors' names, but part of the mindset thing is having like purpose and meaning. It's also having that positive perspective and seeing stress and recovery as important and something that's going to make you healthy. But it's also shrinking the ego. Like people will do more for others than they will for themselves. And there's a lot there. I think you've got a couple of notes, right? Where there's some fascinating stories which people may or may not have heard about. Just mindset, which I think are really useful in these times. But just from a normal business peak performance perspective as well, like it's what's the process solution? Because it's all very well hearing that, okay, mindset's powerful and people can do amazing things, but what's the process? Where's the structure that you can put in place to ensure that you develop your mindset so that it's optimized for performance? Because it does, leadership's closely related to team building as well. Started with a guy yesterday, actually, great young guy. He's absolutely phenomenal. One of the best pre-coaching program preppers I've ever had. Yeah, because when I start some of my coaching program, I need some context. So tell me everything you're doing with your business. Send me your financials, your marketing. Give me some context. This guy sent me War and Peace. It was phenomenal. I got the numbers. I got the full breakdown. But something he said to me that really struck me was, he said, "I just love leaning into challenges. I love doing difficult things. I love how it feels because I know I'm going to grow and evolve." And that was like a real peak performance mindset that he just adopted. And he's got brothers that are successful, so he's around good people. Who you surround yourself with matters as well. Yeah. So but there's a definite structure.
Yeah, so let's talk about the structure just a little bit. So you've mentioned it already. It's really pushing yourself to the edge and giving yourself a bit of stress and
just beyond your capability all the time, which then causes you to grow.
Yeah, whether that is business or sports, really, you can really see it both sides. So really pushing you to the edge, creating a bit of stress, pushing harder, and then you have to rest. So you need that recovery phase. Then that actually equals growth and peak performance.
Well, the sporting analogy is spot on because you're stressing your body, right? Whether it's cardio or weight training, where you're breaking down the microfibers of the muscle. It's a micro tears, right? That's how bodybuilders get bigger and stronger. And then with cardio as well, as if you think of elite athletes, like Olympic athletes, they're pushing themselves beyond capability. Not all the time, by the way. I know with runners, like to increase your VO2 max, blood oxygen exchange, you've got to do some tempo runs, but not all the time. A lot of the time it's maybe 60 or 70% effort. But then when you do tempo, you push really hard. And then yes, you need to recover, man, because if you don't recover, you're not going to get the repair so that you can get back out there. And then you're going to risk injuring yourself, which is fascinating. In the book, these guys talk about athletes and how common it is for guys to overtrain. That happens a fair bit. The recovery thing's crucial. I mean, that is, a lot of people work hard, but because and recovery is sleeping, obviously. It could be sort of meditating, yoga, time with family, weekends, taking a long weekend, going away, a holiday. So, ideally you should have an overseas trip once a year, a couple of long weekends, sporting events, birthdays, whatever it is, book those things in, especially if you're busy and you're prone to a bit of ADHD. If you don't book it in, it doesn't happen.
Yeah. I was going to say, we went 1 week, 6 days to Cape Town just a few weeks ago. And that was, for me personally, the best reset. But I decided to take the time to really be present, take some time off. I didn't look at my emails or anything for 3 days. Really completely switched off. And I think it was the best because before we left, obviously I was sick at one stage, but I was really working on a lot of different things, just grinding, trying to get stuff done for weeks. And it feels like you're just working, but it's like you're slowing down. Everything gets a little bit, muddier. But yeah, we went to Cape Town, did a full reset for at least 3 days, but we were there for 6. And then when we got back, I don't know if you remember, we landed on a Friday and Saturday. I just had all these ideas of things that I thought of, and I just started. I think the whole Saturday, you were jet lagged. I was just working. I did a lot of I was really productive.
Yeah. Hey, I've got to call you out on something as well, though, with that, because in hindsight, when you look back, that's when you can see, how things, you get the learnings. You almost didn't go, remember, and it was because you had so much on. And you were like, I've got so much to do. Is it going to be wise for me to go? Because we're going for a family birthday thing on my side. But you were like, you're even a little uncertain. And I was like, no, just come. And it turned out to be, we were lucky. The weather was fantastic. Everything sort of fell into place. And we had the best time. And you're right. Having that break. It's often conducive to you becoming more productive and getting better results. And I remember seeing some research on that where taking more, there was a group of people that took more breaks and then achieved better results.
But I have to say, it's true. So I did have a lot on, and then for the first 3 days, completely dropped the ball, no contact. I think my VA was texting on WhatsApp going hey, what do I do next? But then on day 4, I was forced to just really be clear, concise, delegate, and straight to the point. When you're in a situation where people are waiting for you for something, you're very, you manage to prioritize things really properly.
Yeah.
So I did that. It's just send off, delegate, was okay, what do we really need to work on right now? It's this. And then, when I got back, I was just, reset, basically. Refresh and reset. So,
It's nothing like that day before you go on holiday, right? To really get shit done, never before. It's fascinating. It's interesting how we can't do that all the time. And when you look, 2020 hindsight, when you look back, we're talking about Daniel Priestley and Stephen Bartlett's conversation recently. They had a pod that went out, and I respect Daniel Priestley's philosophy on business and life, but he was sharing some stories and how when he was young, he had great success, then he lost it all, then he built it back up, then he lost it all again. I think it was the 3rd or 4th time where he really was able to sustain success. But it was in those challenging times, in his darkest hours, that he, if you lose a lot of money or you go through a divorce or whatever, you can go into a real deep black hole, and it's, it's not pretty. But for most of us, something clicks at some point. There's only so much sorrowfulness that you can experience, and then you're like, okay, I've got to do something here. And then when you come out and in a desperate situation, you end up doing things you wouldn't ordinarily do, and it's often those things that you do that get you the success that that eventually comes. So I find that fascinating because I've got a friend, as you know, who's wanting to go into business, and he's asking me, what should I do? And it's hard because, just having coached so many businesses and been through it myself, you there's no guaranteed success. There's no straight line to success. It doesn't happen that way. Things ebb and flow. There's uncertainty. And I suppose it's Darwin's theory of evolution, right? It's not the biggest, strongest animal that survives. It's the one that can adapt the quickest.
Yeah. And things are changing rapidly, I have to say. Even since the beginning of the year, I'm thinking about marketing and online presence and social media, etc. I feel like there's been a real shift from last year. Things are so busy. There's so much noise out there.
Yeah.
Like every day you're getting, whether emails, I'm not even looking at emails, but, from like people that follow, etc. But social media, it's constant. The amount of ads that you're receiving, and people are constantly saying, this has changed, so now you need to do this. So now stop looking at that. Now we're doing this.
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
And then you've
so
got AI
intense.
just feeding you what you want. Well, we all have. So we're living in these little bubbles. And then as a result, it's just becoming, it's relentless, right? So the emails, the social media stuff, where most people I speak to have unplugged from social media. I heard that Gen Z's 54%, right, have unplugged last year from Instagram.
Yeah.
That 54% in 1 year have apparently they still go on and look sometimes, but they're not active on it, which is phenomenal. But I've also heard, and we've spoken about this, people saying I'm sending out emails and I'm not getting responses like from their autoresponder or their email, not the responses they used to get. And also Facebook ads, like Facebook and Instagram ads got people paying a lot of money for advertising, but not getting the results. The algorithms have changed apparently with Meta. Yeah. And some people are still using 2024. Some of the marketing strategists outdated approach of we'll just go with location and niche and demographic. They've changed it now. Apparently Meta focuses on the type of video or ad that you put out there, how flashy it is. Yeah. Which is just encouraging people to be more outrageous. Yeah, which is, it's nuts.
Is what I was going to say, is that even because you were talking about mainstream, media that's like sensationalizing everything, but actually the online social media is so sensationalized because that's what the algorithm likes. So whether it's, and people are just flicking one video to the other and one to the other, is just more people saying, here's the truth about XYZ, or things have changed. Now you need to do this. It's like every single video is like a little, sensationalized 45 seconds video of something, and it's just non-stop.
It's full on, and it's also predominantly negative, right? Because it's targeting reptilian brain. If it bleeds, it leads. So definitely with AI, would you say? I mean, look, we're in different bubbles, right? Like if I go online, I'm getting different content coming to me than what you do. Yeah. Like we know that, right? But would you say yours is probably negative around AI, where it's doom and gloom? There's going to be unemployment, people are going to lose their jobs. There's
no, I don't get that. Your ChatGPT is sensationalizing things too. Yeah. Like the way it responds is like, oh, this is not going to work anymore. What you need to do is this. And I'm thinking,
man.
So even AI is sensationalizing things and constantly, I see the way it's responding to me, and it's like the same, especially ChatGPT, it's like the same thing. Say, okay, I'm going to be honest with you. This is what's happening. I'm like, why are you talking to me like it's...
But we've just gone down a rabbit hole ourselves, because we're going to talk about peak performance and structure. Well, I want to go back to it, but breaking news, and we haven't spoken about this. Yesterday, I saw a post. Elon Musk posted something. I think it had 44 million views. And it was research on, I'm pretty sure it was chat. I think it was chat. The research showed that you know how it wants to please. So you ask it a question and it wants to please you. And then you ask it again and it wants to please you again. So especially if it wants you to be right. And what the research found is that people are becoming delusional because they spending so much time with their AI. So you can imagine people that are, maybe isolated by themselves, and the AI is constantly trying to please, that they've ended up with a worldview that is completely detached from reality. So like you're saying, you want to keep reality-based thinking. So there's research. If there's research out on that means there's enough people, because you understand statistics and research. You need a body of research. You need people so people are going nuts. So
I'm
and
not
that's why we're going
surprised
to
at
the
all.
bush, right?
Yeah.
Going to the bush. We're going into nature
Yeah.
next weekend.
I'm not surprised at all. And sorry, I know I'll go back to topic, but I'm not surprised because even when I ask question to chat, it's responding to me something that's in line with what I said in a few days ago about something else.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, no, but is this the real thing, or are you just confirming me that I'm on the right track? So it's really like, now I've switched to Claude, and I'm trying to,
Well,
trying to really be careful in my prompts and what I'm feeding, etc. Because it's just telling you the same thing that it's already told
so
you before.
Claude's awesome. Claude, someone said to me, one of my builders, young guy, great guys, he's all over it. Like I've got these guys already trying, interested in OpenClaw. I haven't gone there yet, but now keeping an eye on agents and that. But he said to me, Claude, got to use. And the next day, I was on a pod, and they were like, Claude's eating chat's lunch. So Claude's better in certain areas. But have you tried Grok? You got to try Grok.
Oh yeah, I've done Grok.
I'll tell you what, because I was using chat for a while. The chats, Claude and Grok. And Grok's got no guardrails. You know what I mean? So it's completely free speech. And what I found with chat and Claude, there's like, because they've got guardrails, they won't say things to offend me. Whereas Grok will swear back at me.
Yeah, I don't need to be like insulted to actually get work done. Like I don't.
No, but you've got to tell it to do it. You got to tell, look, it's okay. I want you to do it. So it'll do that though. But it'll also, what I found, this is my final point on this, is that it doesn't give me the same I want to please you response that the other two do. I've noticed. I put things into those two, and then Grok's more like And it also hallucinates, by the way. I'm not saying Grok's the best one, because Claude is by far and away better than Grok in especially copywriting. But they've all got their weaknesses. Yeah.
Yeah. If anyone's wondering what to do, Claude is for me the number one right
So
now.
the structure for peak performance, okay, so having the best for loss, because it is mindset, decision making, choosing to be, but you can't just be positive. I want to be positive. There's more to it than that, right?
Yeah, so tell me about it.
Okay, so I know you've got some notes there, but so part of it is your identity. Like, I mean, that's an obvious one. If you think, and I like the peak performance sport analogies. If you think you're not good at something, you're not going to be good at it, right? Whether you think you can or you can't, you're correct, right? So if you think you're really bad at basketball, then it doesn't matter how much you practice, you're not going to be good at it. So you've got to see yourself as, like in business and with your family, a leader. I'm a leader. The question is, you want to have certain things, you need to do certain things, sales, marketing, team building, systems, optimization, automation, whatever it is. The question is, who do you need to be? What type of leader? Okay, how can you, and then you look around you, read some autobiographies, look at who inspires you. Ideally a leader with a big heart, with empathy, compassion, but a steel spine. So you got to have boundaries, and you set those boundaries. You got to know what they are. So you need a strong identity. And then, so there's part of the mindset, and your business will never outgrow your leadership, and you'll never outperform your self-image. So what is the identity and the self-image that you need to best help accelerate your progress towards your goals? That's one component. There's also that, we spoke about shrinking the ego, doing something for other people. This is fascinating. That came out of the book, was how we can, so these stories of, in the book, this guy lifted a car, right, to save a cyclist that was on it. The guy was getting crushed and he was screaming. He was like, please help me. And the guy didn't think he's lifted it, but the weight that he lifted, he would have broken the world deadlift record 3 times over. It was 3 times more than what, the strongest guy in the world can deadlift. And the guy just did it, right? And there's stories of, old ladies doing a similar thing. And there's actually a scientist in Cape Town who found, through study with athletes and runners in particular, marathon runners, he was intrigued when their body, apparently physiologically, that's it, you're gone, you can't do it. Like, it's impossible to lift that thing or to push yourself further. But Olympic athletes and guys in big races have been able to do it, to surge when it shouldn't be possible. So what that means is your mind can do something. And what they found in the research is that there's like a trip switch where if you push hard enough, and this is the key thing, if you're doing it for someone else, if there's a bigger reason outside of you, you can push past that switch, and then you can unleash your true potential and power. David Goggins is the guy, I reckon that's what he's doing. He doesn't talk about it, Goggins, Navy SEAL. But because he does things where he does his ultra marathons, and he talks about like an alter ego where he unleashes, he calls it Goggins, unleash. But he needs to get to this point where he's in excruciating pain. Like he talks about, he broke the bones in his feet. He ran like 120 mile. I don't know how many miles he ran when we first did it. He was like, defecating in his pain. And then something happened, and then he went past that. He kept going. And it's got to be that. But normally you think of your family, your kids, whatever it is, so something outside of you. And I'm not recommending anyone do this. I think it's just fascinating that there is this thing the place that we can get to where we can do way, way more than we think we can. So, but it's about doing it for someone else. Simon Sinek, what's your why? Mm-hmm. Why are you doing what you're doing? That's an important question.
Yeah, and that's why people that do ultra marathons or even just races, and then they're doing it for a charity or for a cause.
Yes.
And then they push way harder than, just doing it for themselves.
Well, funny you should mention that, because we got a little fun run coming up, right? Our 10-kilometer. And it is. I'm gonna do it for charity, just to see. Instead of trying to beat my previous time from 3 years ago and saying I'm gonna beat that guy, that younger version of myself, like screw him. If I'm like, no, I'm doing it for charity. Okay. And then I'm gonna try to beat that time for these people that are sponsoring me, or for those causes. Okay. So I'm gonna try it on.
Or maybe you should put like more of a challenge for yourself. Say, well, if you don't make it within this time frame, you are going to donate X
consequence. Yes. To a charity you don't believe in.
No.
Yeah, I've heard of people doing that. Yeah, they write a check, or they go, okay, here's some money for this thing. If I don't do it, send the money.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It should be like a really big amount that you like, this, so it makes you run,
Yeah.
But
hey, on the mindset and doing it for someone or something else, did we talk about, just quickly, Cologne? Remember we were in Germany?
Yeah.
Late last year? Remember that situation, that cathedral, that Gothic cathedral, which was mind-blowing, right? What they built, the architecture, and it's the German architecture, and geometry, the mathematics, plus carpentry, masonry, construction. But they were doing it because it's Catholicism. They believed in God. Remember, walked in that cathedral, and then we were like, what's going on here? There were a lot of tombs, and then there was one that was just covered in gold. Yeah. And we're like, what's in there? And it was the three wise men from the story of Jesus, and that was like a religious relic. It became like a Mecca, and then they built this cathedral over 600 years, and they reckon they pushed themselves to the point of insanity with that German perfectionism. You think of Mercedes-Benz and BMW and all the Porsche all come out of there, but they used that but they were building it for some higher power. Like, this is God's house, so that's the belief and the view and the mindset that they went in with, and they built something which people are like, that's unbelievable. Like in the Second World War, that thing got bombed, I think 14 times. Cologne was basically reduced to rubble, but that cathedral stood
standing.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
We need to wrap up this pod. So was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
I think there's so much more we could talk about. We don't have time. The book, we'll put it in the show notes. It's called Peak Performance. Do you have it there, the authors' names?
No, I don't, but everything will be in the show notes, everything we spoke about, and the links.
I highly recommend, not only now because things can be a little stressful, more stressful than normal, but just from a peak performance perspective, it's brilliant. And it's all evidence-based, which I love.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for your time, guys. We'll see you in the next one.
Look forward to it. Cheers, guys.